7 years ago, a promise was made. Prince William stood on the soil of the Middle East, committing to a lifelong project of peace. Picture the scene. Amidst the backdrop of centuries-old conflict, a royal figurehead steps forward, vowing to use his influence for good. His mission, to secure a just and lasting peace. A noble cause, wouldn't you agree? The prince's words echoed through the ancient streets of Israel and Palestine, a beacon of hope for those yearning for tranquility. He reassured his aides and the world that this was not just a fleeting visit, but the start of something new. His words were not merely for the moment, but they were to echo into the future, his commitment lasting as long as his royal lineage. Now, let's fast forward to the present, 7 years later. What has happened since then? The promise that was made, the vow that was given, where does it stand today? It's an intriguing question, isn't it? A question that leaves one pondering about the weight of words and the power of actions. One would expect, given the gravity of the commitment, that there would be notable milestones to celebrate, breakthroughs perhaps, or at least whispers of progress. But alas, the echoes of that promise seem to have gone silent. It's as if the pledge was made for the fleeting headlines of the moment, only to be quietly buried upon return to the comfort of Kensington. The question that lingers is not if the promise was made, but rather, was it ever intended to be kept? Was this grand vow of peace just another round of royal PR, or was there genuine intent behind the words? These are the questions that resurface as we reflect on the promised lifelong project. A grand vow indeed, but 7 years have passed. What has happened since then? The reality, however, is starkly different from the promise. 7 years have passed since Prince William made his grand declaration. 7 years of silence, 7 years of inaction. Where are the milestones he spoke of? Where are the breakthroughs he promised? They're nowhere to be found. It's as if the Middle East peace project was a balloon that was inflated for the world to see, only to be popped and forgotten the moment William stepped off the plane back in England. The Middle East, a region fraught with conflict and strife, continues to yearn for peace. But where is William's lifelong project? It seems to have evaporated like morning dew, leaving no trace of its existence. Not a whisper, not a murmur, not a sign of this so-called commitment to peace. One might ask, was it all just for show? Was it all just a well-orchestrated PR stunt? The world was led to believe that a royal was taking the mantle of peacemaker, that he would devote his life to this noble cause. But the reality is a stark contrast. The promise that was made with so much fanfare has fizzled out, leaving behind nothing but empty words and unfulfilled commitments. The lack of progress is glaring. The absence of any tangible action is palpable. It's as if William's promise was a shooting star that faded away as quickly as it appeared, leaving us in the darkness of disappointment and disillusionment. The promise of peace, it seems, was nothing more than a fleeting illusion, a mirage that disappeared as soon as it was approached. It's been 7 long years since William's pledge to the Middle East, 7 years, and yet the promise of peace remains unfulfilled. The reality check is clear. The grand declaration of a lifelong project was nothing more than a hollow promise, a fleeting moment of hope that was quickly extinguished. It appears the promise was forgotten as soon as the royal flight touched back down in Kensington. Now, those promises are resurfacing, but not in a way that Prince William might have hoped. You see, when you make grand promises, people tend to remember, especially when those promises involve something as monumental as peace in the Middle East. And when you fail to deliver on those promises, well, the receipts have a way of coming back around. 7 years ago, William stood on foreign soil making vows of peace and progress, of a lifelong project. Yet those words now echo in the vast emptiness of unfulfilled promises. Not a single milestone reached, not a single breakthrough achieved. It's as if the promise was made for the purpose of a headline, only to be buried in the sands of time upon his return to the comforts of Kensington. And these old receipts, these echoes of grand proclamations, they're resurfacing, not in the form of fulfilled promises, but as stark reminders of empty pledges. They're coming back to haunt William, as they contrast sharply with the actions of his younger brother, Prince Harry. Harry didn't stand on a stage and declare a lifelong project. No, he took action. He stepped into war zones like Ukraine and delivered tangible results through the Invictus Games Foundation. There were no grand speeches, no empty promises, just a commitment to make a difference and the actions to back it up. So as we look back on those 7 years, we see two very different approaches. On one side, William, with his grand promises and lack of action. On the other, Harry, who didn't make any grand promises, but instead rolled up his sleeves and got to work. The Middle East was supposed to be William's life mission, but the only mission accomplished was another round of royal PR. The receipts don't lie. One brother makes speeches, the other makes history. While one brother was making speeches, the other was making history. Consider Prince Harry's work with the Invictus Games Foundation. This initiative, born out of Harry's own military service, aims to use the power of sport to inspire recovery, support rehabilitation, and generate a wider understanding and respect for wounded, injured, and sick servicemen and women. Unlike grandiose promises made in press lines, Harry's work is hands-on and action-oriented. He didn't just stand behind a podium and make lofty declarations. No, Harry rolled up his sleeves, got his hands dirty, and put his heart into something that would truly make a difference. He's not just a figurehead for the Invictus Games Foundation. He's a driving force behind its success. He's been there, in the thick of it, meeting with competitors, cheering them on, understanding their struggles, and celebrating their victories. His commitment to the cause isn't just a headline, it's a tangible, palpable reality. And the impact, it's been nothing short of transformative. The Games have provided a platform for hundreds of servicemen and women to not just compete, but to heal, to regain their sense of self, to find camaraderie in shared experiences, and to prove that they are not defined by their injuries. This isn't a project that fades into the background once the cameras stop rolling. The Invictus Games Foundation continues to forge ahead, changing lives and challenging perceptions. And Harry, he's right there in the trenches, ensuring that every step forward is a step that counts. So while one brother's promises might have faded into the ether, the other's actions have echoed loud and clear. Harry didn't need to declare a lifelong project. He just went and did the work. The tale of two brothers, one makes speeches, the other makes history. This is the striking reality of two royal siblings. Prince William and Prince Harry, sons of Diana, Princess of Wales, each taking their own unique path in the world. On one hand, we have Prince William, the future king, donned in the armour of royal responsibility. 7 years ago, he stood on foreign soil and pledged to the world that he would dedicate his life to peace in the Middle East. Yet, as we look back now, what do we see? A promise that echoed around the globe but ultimately fell silent. No milestones, no breakthroughs, not even a whisper of progress. It appears the promise was nothing more than a grand gesture, a headline-catching declaration that disappeared as soon as the cameras stopped rolling. On the other hand, we have Prince Harry. He didn't declare a lifelong project to the world. Instead, he chose action over words. He stepped into war zones like Ukraine and delivered real, meaningful change. Through the Invictus Games Foundation, he has shown his commitment to supporting those affected by war, not by making promises but by taking action. The contrast between the two brothers couldn't be more stark. One making grand declarations yet seemingly failing to follow through. The other, quietly getting on with the work, making a difference in people's lives without the fanfare or the headlines. As we examine the tale of these two brothers, we see a lesson in the difference between words and actions. It's easy to make promises, to vow to change the world, but it's what we do, not what we say, that truly matters. That's the mark of real history-making. And so, we conclude this tale, this story of two brothers, with a simple truth. Receipts don't lie. One brother makes speeches, the other makes history.